controls the spice, controls the universe.
Yeah, it's rich in bubbly goodness.
Do you remember when you lost your passion for this work?
I invited another friend. I hope that's okay. Ah!
Hello, everyone, and welcome to my channel. I'm Reina Creole, bringing you that spice to sci-fi and pop culture analysis. And no, your eyes aren't deceiving you. I'm not on camera because my day is crazy, but I had to rearrange my day because there's somebody I've been wanting to interview for quite some time. So I was more than happy to rearrange some things to get him on. So why don't we go ahead and introduce my co-host? How you doing, Fat Steven?
She's lying. She was eating a sandwich that just got out of the oven. It was turkey and pepper jack cheese, and she's just enjoying the sandwich. I'm sorry, she put me in the back, and I feel oppressed. I just wanted to bring that out. She didn't share any of that sandwich either. Hi, Lorena. How are you? How you doing? Well, having a good day?
I'm doing good. I'm enjoying my sandwich.
That's great. Me too. Yeah. Can you just eat it a little closer to the mic so I can have kind of like lunchtime ASMR while you're doing that, please?
Lunchtime ASMR.
You know, if you can't eat the food, I can definitely make you hear it sounding. You know, yeah.
Wow, that's a new one.
I'm sorry, Andre and Tom and anyone else who watches this in the future. I'm not really sorry. But good morning.
How you doing? Good morning.
I'm actually having a great day. It's been a weird kind of 2 weeks, but I think I'm going to pull through. Channel's growing well. The watch hours are growing up. Comic Book Roundtable was a blast last night. It was just like actual fun. And like, oh man, after the Joss Whedon stuff and the coat stuff at the Red Skull, I was just like,
coat.
Oh, and the Peterson, I was just like, you're funny. And then we actually looked at some of the pages and it was just like, oh my God.
Yeah, Az did a video on that, and I have to check it out. And I also have to check out Young Ripper's take as well. His is the one I'm really looking forward to. To both of them, but they're kind of like two sides of the same issue. But speaking of really cool stuff, our guest that we have in the back is someone he's really oh Lord, you want to get hurt, don't you?
Wait, this is Norwegian?
You really want to get hurt?
No, yes. I don't. It's Norwegian. At least now he's to come in raging, going, I'm gonna kill you.
Let's switch this way. I learned from him a long time ago that you really do not call a Norwegian a Swede. It's like calling from someone from Jamaica Trinidadian. Those are fighting words.
So I can't get away with Sweden?
Probably not.
No, I'm just kidding. It's definitely Norwegian. I know. I just like having a little fun, and he's probably going to hunt me down later.
Oh, but yeah, this guy, he knows so much about retro gaming, about fantasy, and
the private chat. Oh my God.
Usually likes to cause all kinds of trouble in the private chat.
Oh my God, that's way off. But,
to the point where I can't. If I know he's in the private chat, I can't look, or else I will get completely thrown off. But he's also one of those people who knows so much about Star Wars. And when I say Star Wars, I mean episodes, 1 through 6, and the EU novels as well. So
Star Wars
please
theory?
Welcome.
Or did we get like Mike Zero? I don't
know. Neither one of those. I think Star Wars theory is probably too busy to come on my channel unless I drag Drunk 3PO with me.
I'm cheesy lately in the chat right now, calling him. He looks as sexy as blue milk, so he's laughing at that every time he reads it.
But
let's bring him out. Yeah, we should bring him out. He's joined us on the Florida shows too.
Hi, absolutely, Stig. To provide all kinds of cool commentary, especially with lots of puns. How you doing, Stig?
Hi, I'm doing quite well. It's a gray, chilly, windy day in Norway. but things are good.
Thank you for not unfollowing me or blocking me after that. I was just trying to be funny.
It's okay. Perfectly okay.
Thank you.
It's funny how that joke is perpetuated. As soon as someone says, they try to equate Swede with Norway, we're just kind of like, what's Stig going to come back with?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think everyone will want to get on his bad side.
Christy kind of, well, she didn't start it, but she certainly finds a lot of enjoyment in it. I think it's because I don't usually cuss, but when I'm near Christy, then she brings it out of me.
Just kind of rubs off, huh?
Yeah. Like,
is it more love-hate or hate-love?
I don't know. I just say it. Don't think about it too much.
Yeah, it just comes out.
Yep.
You want me to change my avatar to Christy? I can do that quickly if you want.
What?
Nothing.
Well, we are glad to have you here because I know your schedule, your time. You don't have a whole lot of time, so I'm always glad when you're able to pop on a stream, and especially to get to interview and talk to you. So I know I see you when I get a chance on Alora's stream when she does her Star Wars stream on Thursdays, and I really haven't read. Haven't finished reading the first Game of Thrones book. I was reading the audio book, and I think I stopped listening when now it seems that George R.R. Martin is never going to finish Winds of Winter, and that just kind of deflated my enthusiasm.
Yeah, it's getting hard to keep hopes up. It would be okay if we knew he was writing constantly, but he keeps announcing new projects all the time. And I'm like, if your wheelbarrow's already full, right? Don't pour more stuff into it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. There's so many other books to read in the meantime. So I'm fine with it. If it takes as long as it takes and it ends up being good as a result, then good for me as a reader, right?
Absolutely. I mean, the Game of Thrones book, it's a wonderful read. Definitely. I'm enjoying it. It's taking me so long because I swear there's so much detail in it. It takes me 3 times to go back, because I have it on audiobook, to go back to get all the stuff that I forgot the first time that I was listening to it, because it's just so full of just detail and scene setting, and it's wonderful. So hopefully one day he'll finish that. But
and once you start noticing the stuff between the lines, there's almost a novel there as well.
Absolutely.
It's insane.
Absolutely.
Which is why it's taking so much time.
Yeah, and part of me as a fan is just kind of irritated. Like, what do you mean you're doing all this other stuff but not finishing, Winds of Winter? I understand you have to get the bills paid. I understand, but it was a little bit of a downer.
Yeah.
But I'm still getting that hardcover though.
I actually
bought Ice and Fire.
I bought some. There's some that have been released recently. With they released book 1 through 3 so far, and they're hardcovers and illustrated. There's at least 20 full-page illustrations in each book, and they were like $25 a piece, which was wow.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Wow.
What's the most favorite book you've read so far? Let's say over the last 3 months that keeps your mind going.
Oh, and in the last 3 months, I've mostly been reading old Star Wars books. I love Star Wars and all that, but I wouldn't say any of the EU books kind of, compares to the Lord of the Rings or anything like that, right? It's good Star Wars stories, supplementing the movies.
That's a good way of putting it.
yeah, so it's they're not masterpieces, but they're very, very entertaining, and a lot of them are very good. So
Hmm.
They're Star Wars, and that's why you're drawn to read them, because it
yeah,
beats what's been given us in a visual format that feels like pieced together, asinine thinking, and you can go back to that and realize that we still have a universe that actually made sense.
yeah, and for the most part, those novels fit perfectly, except for some of the old ones because they were written
Hmm.
before the prequels, and they had no idea that the EU would blow up like it did because that had
Hmm.
never happened before, right? And they didn't think George would make more movies because he said Star Wars would continue in comic and novel form after
Hmm.
Return of the Jedi. And so there's a couple of books and comics and stuff that don't add up. I mean, the old ones they made in the 80s, the Marvel comics, they're entirely their own thing because they don't, George had nothing to do with them. But
Yeah.
later on in the 90s, it just exploded.
Hmm. That's what I remember because I had bought the comics for a while. I have a stash in the back. But when George said he wasn't doing any more movies, that's when myself and other friends of mine started reading
Yeah,
they didn't call them the EU novels at the time, but whenever there was a launch of one of them, it was a big deal because we didn't have any of the new movies. So I always knew of a friend that was reading whatever Star Wars novel that came out, and it was almost like a requisite to collect those because that was the collection of lore, what happened after the end of Return of the Jedi, and then of course when the prequels came out. I don't know. Some people I know didn't really like the prequels too much, so they just kind of wanted to stick to the books. But even as someone who wasn't big into reading a lot of the EU novels, I think I only read two. One was Courtship of Princess Leia, and then I read Heir to the Empire. Those were the only two. But I was aware that those books were out there. Um,
yeah, and
but it's just, oh, go
even
ahead, Steve.
even the ones that aren't that good, they they still feel like Star Wars because they get the characters right.
Yeah, you can still have a bad story as long as the character has
Mhm.
some type of growth and arc that makes it worth going through. You're
Yeah,
not always going to nail a book and a story perfectly, but if you can nail at least an aspect of it, it keeps the reader involved, and they'll pick up the next book, especially when they do it in those the 3 book series like they usually did for some of them.
yeah,
Mhm.
and you have to keep in mind that a book written in '94 or something, right? It doesn't have the advantage of having all the lore from the prequels. You know,
Exactly. Exactly. But they were always so wonderful to read. Like kind of like you were saying. It's like sometimes the novels weren't so good, but we could hear the voices of the characters we knew and loved. And that seemed to be the most enjoyable part, of reading those books.
yes, and there's it's a bit like there's two different EU book series because back in the '90s it was made by Bantam, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And they did more. Their books were more lighthearted and maybe a little bit cheesy as well at
Mhm.
times. And there was a lot of super weapons, and Leia's kids could not stop getting kidnapped. That happened a lot, but so it was lighthearted and kind of like a New Hope. You know,
Mhm.
it had that feeling. But when Del Rey took over, and they started off with the New Jedi Order, which was 19 books. Uh, Star Wars went dark, really dark, and that's also when continuity really got tightened up.
Mhm.
So it's if you like dark and more adult Star Wars, maybe the
Mhm.
Del Rey books certainly have that.
I would have to agree. I'd forgotten that that first Bantam was first on the scene because I had always thought of them as being published by Del Rey. I think probably when I started reading was when that changeover first happened. But there's definitely a difference from, say, the courtship of Princess Leia and Tatooine's ghost as opposed to Sacrifice. Because that
Oh
was
yeah,
that was extremely dark and I really liked it.
yeah. I mean,
I go ahead.
there's a reason why people like Empire Strikes Back and Revenge of the
Mhm.
Sith the most.
Yeah, Empire Strikes Back, that's still my all-time favorite Star Wars movie, and Revenge of the Sith, that movie, I think when the prequel started to come out, everyone was like, "Oh, okay, it's Star Wars, we'll go see it." Revenge of the Sith was so anticipated, and I think I've told this story before. My whole IT department, software, all of that, we basically said, we will not be here when the day that movie comes out. Do not schedule the meeting. If you're the lowest on the totem pole, guess what? You're stuck doing support because we're all gone. And literally, we filled up I think we took over 2 showings of Revenge of the Sith because we wanted to see what is it that happened to make Anakin turn into Darth Vader. That was probably one of the most anticipated ones besides it's with The Empire Strikes Back. That was kind of dropped on us. We didn't expect that. But with Revenge of the Sith, it's like, okay, we know how this is going to end, but we want to see that
The
like
progression.
lead up. Yes, the progression, because it was just it was crazy.
See,
It was crazy, the anticipation.
it was, but for me, what really got me is the fact that the prequels, like it had its good moments and its bad moments, and I think Revenge of the Sith and the whole Clone Wars. I just wanted to see the Clone Wars. I wanted to see, like, it didn't have to be finding Anakin as a young kid. It could have been Anakin being trained by Obi-Wan and how they were going through it. I know the animated series later on, yada yada yada, but it would have been a better progression showing the mid rise and fall at the same time and how he eventually became Vader over a 3 movie period instead of the way they introduced like Jar Jar Binks and the pod racing. I didn't like it for some reason. It threw me off the way they were trying to introduce how far back it came and the mitochlorians. That stuff.
Midichlorians, yeah, that
That
kind of
whatever word that is,
threw me up.
I fuzz it out. But the Clone Wars was the thing I always wanted to get to know more about. This is before the books and the shows came out because it was how big was it? Because it had to be like at least a galaxy devastating kind of war. Because you got all these forces always trying to conquer planets and fighting back. It was just like, oh. And then we got that.
Yeah, I always felt that the prequels should have had another movie in between 2 and 3. Should have been a quadrilogy.
It would have been, I think it would have suited better as an actual war prequel, like actually focusing on the war part of the Star Wars, than the characters of their growth. You know what I mean? That you still have that, but it wasn't attaching as for me as to for a lot of as maybe to a lot of people. It felt disconnected in a way.
Yeah, the old trilogy is very straightforward, right? It's good versus evil, and it has the hero's journey. The prequels are more symbolic. There's symbolism all over the place. Old religious and mythological symbolisms, I guess. One of them is when Anakin is on top of that mountain thing and is about to head down to the Tusken Raider camp.
Yeah.
The sky behind him is red, and he's basically descending into hell. Because that's when he gives into his rage, right? When he's down there, that's when the descent happens. So there's a lot of that, and you have Padme and Anakin flirting, and they're surrounded by lovely gardens and stuff. That's the Garden of Eden. I mean, there's even an apple, right, or a fruit. There's a lot of that in the prequels, and the end shot. Well, one of the end shots in episode 1 is you have when they're burning Liam Neeson's corpse, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have Anakin, and then you have Padme and Kenobi, and then Palpatine, in that order, standing next to each other.
Yeah.
So basically, you symbolize that between Anakin and Palpatine, you have Kenobi and Padme. So they're protecting Anakin from Palpatine, and those two are also the obstacles Palpatine have to overcome to get to Anakin.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of stuff like that.
Wow, I hadn't thought about it like that. It's
then
been
you
a
have that,
long time since I've seen that.
And then you have that bit with you have Darth Maul, who's the first villain, right? He's
Mm-hmm.
completely, consumed with rage and hatred. Then you have Count Dooku, who's a fallen Jedi, and then you have Grievous, who's a cyborg. If you put them together, you get Vader. All of them foreshadow. Yeah, and they also foreshadow how Anakin falls in that order.
Mm-hmm.
He gives into rage, he becomes a fallen Jedi, and then a cyborg.
One of the things about Grievous that kind of stuck out to me was how he kept wheezing so much.
That's from the first Clone Wars animated show. Mace Windu force crushes his chest as Grievous makes off with Palpatine.
Because if I wouldn't have known that, for some reason, that just reminded me of Darth Vader with his breathing.
Yeah, it's
and I'd never seen the Clone Wars. Okay.
Yeah, this is the Tartakovsky Clone Wars, though, not the 3D animated one.
Yeah, I regretted not being able to sit down and watch Tartakovsky's Clone Wars. The other one I could care less about. I tried to watch that, and I'm just like, I can't watch this crap.
Are we talking the CG, like the 3D animated one, or the actual 2D animated one?
2D animated one.
That was much better.
Yeah, that one is. You can find it on YouTube and just watch the whole thing. It's not even that long. It's like an hour or something.
Yeah, it wasn't that long. I just remember the advertisements for it when it came out on the Cartoon Network because of the animation, because Gennady Tartakovsky is so good at that and directing that and with story. So I was like, okay, I have to make it a point to actually sit down and watch that, because the other one, which I guess was the 3D one, I didn't like that very much. But interesting note about Gennady Tartakovsky, because he also did the Powerpuff Girls. There is a hilarious homage to Star Wars.
Accelerate to attack formation and follow me in. I can see a small exhaust port at the end of the chasm.
So they basically recreated the whole entire scene from when Luke Skywalker has to, hit that target exactly on the Death Star to make it blow up. Except, in this case, instead of Vader's TIE fighter following him, apparently the boogeyman was in some big, huge land yacht following him. So it was just a funny homage, but interesting how Gennady also did the Clone Wars. So just as funny. I liked Powerpuff Girls, so I thought that was cool. Cheesy, but it was fun.
Very, very cheesy, but also fun.
It's like it was always stuff like that not just other cartoons would just like splice in Star Wars references. Like even back when Disney was actually doing animation pretty good, Phineas and Ferb, they had a whole episode, which I think George Lucas helped write, which they did based off of Star Wars, and that was cool too.
I think that 70s show had a Star Wars episode too.
Wow.
Yeah, Red Foreman played. I think he played Obi-Wan or something. They were goofing around with it because Star Wars happened in the 70s, right?
Yeah. Yeah. This is true. This is true. I didn't really watch the 70s.
I
the 70s
believe
show.
the episode came out in 1999. I just put up the IDMB. It was called A New
Mhm.
Hope.
Hmm.
They go
Really?
see Star Wars. They become obsessed with it while Red's boss returns to town. Yeah.
Oh.
They actually did like the lightsaber stuff. And yeah,
Mhm.
it was really bad.
Oh yeah, it was really bad, but it was fun.
Yeah.
It was like the so bad it's good, but you realize it came from a place of like respect, even though it was, cheesy. It's like you had respect for the lore. It wasn't like it is now, where they basically just try to trash it any chance that they get.
I think it was a dream sequence.
Was it?
Yeah, I think it was.
Hmm.
Yeah, because not every day you get to hear Obi-Wan call Luke Skywalker a dumbass.
Yeah. Well, speaking of stupid things with relation to Star Wars, what's this? Because supposedly, Steve, you're quoted in this.
I haven't read it yet. I just saw that thing yesterday. It's
What
it
is
used to be an audio play from 2015, I think,
Mhm.
and they're now turning it into a novel. Yeah, it's the character is I guess like a scientist Indiana Jones or something.
Yeah, like an archaeologist style.
Yeah,
What?
and of course LGBTQ and female. And
Okay.
she works for Vader, and in one of the comics, she actually beats Vader too, I think. So yeah, it's classic Disney character, really. What they do though, and this has been a thing since the Clone Wars, really, the animated one, is
Mhm.
in order to prop up and make their own characters seem competent, right?
Mhm.
They tend to nerf the villains. If you watch the Clone Wars, every time Ahsoka runs into a villain,
Mhm.
that villain's power level kind of drops, right?
Like it's either in their actual force ability, their physical prowess, or their mental acuity, pretty much, right?
Yeah, it just the new characters just get a boost of that, and the villains get drained from fight, right?
That's so bad. That's the whole thing with the Thrawn, right? While people are pissed off with Thrawn, because I know he was supposed to be a younger Thrawn without experience, but at the same time, it still felt like they dumbed him down to a point that if you're younger, you're just generally stupid.
Yeah, he kind of got turned into
Smart.
Gargamel.
Oh my god!
Capturing the rebels in every episode and then letting them escape in some obvious way.
That's the whole point of being a villain or the ultra villain of the season or the series is that you're supposed to have that underlying fear no matter what. You're supposed to problem solve to get away from it. Even if you don't defeat them, getting away is a type of defeat. You don't have to make them look dumber to accomplish an arc or a growth within a hero. That's the thing. Outsmarting a villain is sometimes a better outcome than trying to outplay them because they're made better. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's there's a quote by Terry Brooks, who's a famous fantasy author. He also wrote the
Sword of Truth,
the Phantom Menace novel, and he said in a book about writing that the threat, no, sorry, the strength of the antagonist, no shit, the strength of the protagonist is measured by the threat posed by the antagonist, right? And that's good writing because that means the hero has to overcome a huge obstacle, a huge threat.
Oh, he did Shannara. He did the sort of Shannara.
Yeah,
that's why that sounded familiar. Yeah,
yeah. And if you think about it, Rocky, Apollo Creed is a massive obstacle. Rocky goes in just to try to remain standing after 3 rounds, and because Apollo tends to knock people out.
Yeah,
and Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader is a massive obstacle, and then they add to it with Palpatine.
It's not just that he's a major obstacle. He's also like when they finally reach the point where he finds out he's family. It's not just the obstacle of the villain he has to face to become a Jedi Knight. It's also
Yeah.
the force of finally figuring out that your family is something that you never expected, and it's overcoming that without trying. Yeah, it
It's
has so many levels. Yeah, it was like a layered
yeah.
cake.
Because
It's a physical, emotional, and mental threat to Luke.
Exactly. And it added another dimension to what I call like the classical part of writing. You have your hero, but alluding to what Terry Brooks said, your hero is only going to be as good compared to how much of a threat the antagonist is. If the antagonist has to appear larger than life, has to appear invincible, because part of the journey of the protagonist is finding out just how it is that they're going to eventually succeed against the antagonist. They don't always win all the time. As a matter of fact,
No.
we expect them to get knocked down several times. If it's too easy, we wind up losing interest. It's like, why the heck should we even keep reading? There's nothing to learn. There's nothing that the hero learns or grows from. So why pay attention? But it's always that hero that keeps getting knocked down, keeps getting back up, even to the point where the hero just comes like a hair's breadth of quitting. And then something happens and they find out like, oh, okay, now I know what to do. And and it starts from there. It's like if there isn't that constant tension going on, you have a crappy story.
It's like Dragon Ball in a way. Like when Goku gets defeated, what does he do? He goes off, he trains to get stronger, learns a new technique, comes back and faces the villain again. And that's like that's pretty much the whole arc of his character in general. Not only does he enjoy the fight and having challenging enemies, but he enjoys and has the addiction in that way to become stronger because he wants to be stronger because there's always to be someone else stronger out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and if you think about the the most popular fantasy stories out there, right? The ones that really took off. You have Star Wars, The Lord of the Rings, and Harry Potter, right? None of them alone can defeat the villain. They have no chance.
Right.
All of them constantly need help from their friends to get there.
Mm-hmm.
Frodo actually fails, but then Gollum bites his finger off and falls into the pit.
Mm-hmm.
And
has finger sandwiches.
Yeah, and Luke has to be saved by Anakin.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I had never read Lord of the Rings because I wasn't really into fantasy that much. Although I did see the movies because I knew that was a big deal to watch the movies. I wasn't really that much into fantasy, but I had some friends that were. So, Stig, what are some of your favorite fantasy books? Or should I ask, what's your favorite fantasy author? I remember both of those.
Oh, I don't know. For me, though, it started in the late 80s. I started reading the Conan comics because, that's fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
Technically, sword and sorcery, but, it's the same thing. And then someone gave me the Lord of the Rings, and I'm like, shit, this is cool. And, and I didn't even know it was a genre because I didn't think about it, right? And once I read the Lord of the Rings, I started, I need more of this. And I discovered Terry Brooks and Robert Jordan, Raymond Feist, all kinds of writers. But I'm not sure who my favorite is, really. There's so many. Currently, one of my favorites is a guy named Joe Abercrombie. He's an English fellow. He writes, I guess it's fantasy, but it's kind of like a mix between Game of Thrones and Tarantino movies in tone and character. Every character is a fucked up individual. All of them are psychos, and it's so entertaining. So that's what I've been getting into the most lately. It's great fun.
Have you ever read either A Sword of Truth or Wheel of Time?
Yeah, I read The Wheel of Time twice.
What'd you think?
Loved it.
Me too. Are you terrified for the series?
Oh, the series is dead on arrival.
Like the Sword of Truth one. Yeah.
The Sword of Truth one followed the books for one episode.
One episode, yes.
Yeah. The Wheel of Time, I think, is going to be quite similar because I saw the show writer had decided that this fantasy world should be what he thinks New York will be in 40 years in terms of diversity.
Oh, okay, I'm done. Yeah, I'm done.
Yeah, and they race swapped at least 60% of the main cast.
Is Rand still a man?
Yeah, he's still a man.
I don't understand the reason.
Like Wheel of Time is what, 14, 15 books
stuff.
now?
It doesn't even make sense though that they race swapped it because you know that northern guy that's basically the Aragorn of the story.
Yeah,
he's Asian now in the show.
What?
It doesn't even make sense in terms of the map, you know. And the sea folk in that series, they're islanders, and you know they're great sailors. That's where the black people are. You know, they're a sailor race in that story in that world. But now they're also in the middle of the inland, in the middle of the continent, where they don't even live. They've never been there. So that will have ripple effects down the road when the main characters finally meet the sea folk, and you learn about their culture and they become allies kind of, and all that. All that is gone if everything, if every race in that world is located in the starting village in the middle of the map.
That wouldn't make sense, especially for the dwellers in the desert when it comes to the Dragonborn arc coming a little bit more relevant. That makes no sense.
Yeah, it makes absolutely no sense. So they have to rewrite that somehow, and I don't think they will because they did all of that for the virtue signal. So I don't think they thought past that. So when you do that, eventually you're going to mess up the lore, right? Which will affect the story, and then you'll have a story with a bad foundation with a lot of cracks in it.
So they Pratchett it, but they Pratchett it with virtue signal, pretty much.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's virtue signal galore. And everyone who doesn't like it is a racist.
See, this is one of the things that aggravates me about this crap. I don't care what kind of agenda that you have. If you can write solid storytelling, that's fine, but don't make the virtue signaling the selling point, which is what they seem to be doing with this for quite some time. You don't hear anything about the story. You hear about how either diverse the cast is or whatever protected class the protagonist is going to be.
It's weird because they take real world stuff into a fantasy story where that fantasy world doesn't have the same issues or problems that we have, right? So it just turns the other world into our world, or like a version of it,
or they don't have,
takes you out of the escapism.
It does, but it also, I would think that if you were going to do something like that, at least have the creative talent to wrap it up so that we don't see it as something that's to the modern world now.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about the Battlestar Galactica reboot from 10 years ago or more, right? Starbuck was race swapped. Nobody complained because it was done well and it wasn't a selling point. It was just they just started airing the show and here's Starbuck, right? It wasn't like, we finally have a female pilot and you have to watch the show to see that.
No.
There wasn't anything like that. They just did it and there was no outcry.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I think there was a little outcry at first because I think people were a little back, but it wasn't the way it is now because it wasn't thrust. They said, hey, Starbuck, they delivered Starbuck as a female and it went great. It wasn't like the main focus as, this is her gender now. It was more, this is what we're doing. Yeah. They delivered it, and people fell in love with it. And I just like to say right now, I am a Cylon.
Oh, I was going to say, I kind of see your point because I remember when that was announced, and I'm just like, Starbucks a woman?
Mhm.
Really? Okay. Let's see how they're going to
Yeah.
do this. And that was pretty much the extent of the conversation. They didn't really
Yeah.
make it a big deal that it was a woman. They just said, "Oh, we're going to try something different. We're going to make Starbucks a woman." And that was
Yeah.
it. But you already knew the story or the backstory for what was going on. So it's like, oh, okay, we got a story. This is a
Yeah.
twist to it. We'll see how it turns out.
Yeah, and if you were skeptical about it, the show creators didn't attack you and call
Oh,
you
yeah.
all kinds of is.
Exactly.
No, they
You
pointed
know?
at you, called you a Cylon, and everyone else attacked you.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Never been called a
joking.
Cylon before, but I've
You're
been
a
called all kinds
Cylon.
of ist.
But that's true. That's something that I was talking with, I think a couple of months ago. I was on a live stream with Joe Malozzi, the co-creator of Stargate SG-1. And I remember telling him that when I met him and I had some grievances about the show, I was polite about it. I said, I appreciate the fact that you listened to the fans who wanted to tell you the good stuff and the stuff that they didn't like about the show. And neither he nor the co-creators went around attacking the fans. You know, they kind of listened and they were like, yeah, we could have did that better. Or, sorry, that episode disappointed you. This is what we were going for. But it wasn't an outright attack on any of the fans at any time like it is now.
Yeah, it's one of the worst things you can call someone is a Nazi, right?
Yeah.
Yet that's the first thing they call someone now. I mean, surely there's tiers between that and, loving the show. It's either you love it or you're labeled the worst thing imaginable.
Well, we're in the day and age. Sorry, Stig. I mean, cut you off.
Yeah, it's just it's weird, if you call someone something like that, you have to have a damn good case for it, But now it's just no, you don't like you didn't like the the new Supergirl or something, then bam, you're slammed with the worst possible accusation you can dish out at someone.
I think it's because a lot of them, there used to be that if you were a writer for the show, you actually had some kind of talent. Now they're hiring these hacks out here where all they do is check a box. I'm this protected class, I'm that. So you should like whatever it is that they throw at you. And they're not used to having their work criticized. And they're so thin skinned that as soon as you criticize it, you're an ist, you're a phobe or whatever. Like with the term Nazi, the same one that they throw out racist. Those are very serious charges, yet they have nothing to back it up with.
Well, it's
Isn't
because
this
they were
the,
handed everything. If I could attach that quickly, they're the generation that's been handed everything. They've never told, "Oh, you did a bad job. You should work harder." It's like, "Oh, you did a bad job. You're still perfect. You're still perfect. Here's Spider-Man. Here's Batman. Here's Luke Skywalker. Here's this." And they don't understand that no matter how much hard work they think they're putting in, or if they're actually putting in, they're not going to get rewarded for everything. Because it falls back to the same thing we were talking about with Star Wars. There's always going to be someone stronger than you, but in this case, someone better than you.
Exactly, and it's the participation trophy generation, right?
Yep.
But
Yep.
back in the late '90s, you had those daycare centers.
Mm-hmm.
Kids got dropped off, and you had too few people working there. You had like 8 women looking after 200 kids, right? And the only way those kids could get attention was to throw a tantrum. Well, it worked, and now they're adults, and they have the same tactic, right?
Which is true, they do. It's like the harder you kick and scream, to get attention, there isn't any self introspection. Like, okay, where did I screw up? If I did screw up, then okay, I can learn from that. Now it's just, I don't like it. Let me just throw the biggest tantrum, draw attention whatsoever to draw away from the fact that I don't know what the heck it is I'm doing. And
Yeah,
you notice it on Twitter, the ones that see that small minority that has the freaking loudest voice, as soon as you criticize them, they just cause all kinds of freaking havoc.
Yeah, and quite often it's white people. White people screaming racism on behalf of others that never thought it was racist to begin.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that
I mean, didn't they label you a racist too not long ago?
Oh yeah, usually it happens every couple of months. No one pays attention and they're just like, you don't like this because you're racist. I'm just like, have you seen my profile?
Yep.
Wait, you're black?
Yeah, I know. Contrary to
Oh
what
crap! Oh crap!
Abu
I'm right
Nas
there with
didn't
Abu
say.
Nas. Yeah.
Uh, they do this. It's like they'll throw out this accusation of racism because they don't expect to be called to the carpet on it. Now, if I say it and I'm just like, what do you mean racist? What's your point? Then they talk down to me. Like you have the wrong opinion. You shouldn't have that opinion. And they'll
Yeah.
do that. And if I keep pushing back on it, then that's pretty much when they'll call me safe health hating and they feel perfectly justified calling me whatever it is they want to call me.
Oh yeah. So as soon as they slap a label on you, you're fair game.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is that when it comes to that label, when you challenge them with logic or fact, they either block you or mute you or pretend you don't exist to report the tweet or the comment because it goes against what they believe, but they don't even know the meaning of the words they're using and what the meaning behind them is supposed to be and how serious they are. They're taking away the power of the words like it would, like in some fantasy tales, the power of your name. And if you give away your name, you're giving away yourself. They're doing the same thing with these types of words let's go back 20, 30 years where these words were serious accusations where it made you think whether or not you did cross a line, and they're taking it away.
Yeah, they're basically blunting the blade from overuse and misuse.
The Last Jedi in the word. Yep. Sorry, I had to. I was waiting for a while to say that.
No, but it's true. And it's extremely insulting when you get these group of people, a lot of them who happen to be white, who somehow feel that they have to advocate for so-called oppressed minorities. I'm like, I'm not oppressed. I don't know where the heck you're getting that from.
Yeah,
but they
it's like
feel that
they're
they have to do it.
yeah, it's like they look down on people and go, hey, you just stay still, kid. I'll defend you.
Oh
You
yeah,
know?
that's exactly it. Do what we tell you. It's almost a prime example, like with that High Republic writer, who is it, Christina
Oh,
Ariel or
Christina, what
whatever.
the hell?
Yeah, so she was able to say whatever racist stuff she wanted to say against, white people. And if you called her out on that, let's put it this way, if you were white and called her out on that, then you were labeled a racist.
Yeah.
I call her out on that. They just pretty much ignore and block me. But that's what they want to do. But they think it's okay for them to call people racist who disagree with their racist assessment, what they're doing. But again, it's the the bigotry of soft expectations where it's okay to let people like Christina Ariel to be racist because they just don't know any better. How freaking patronizing is that?
Yeah, and it's usually a good way to spot it is when they do their Twitter rants and whatever, right? And they white people this, white people that. Yeah. If you replace the word white with black in that tweet, you can see how racist it is.
Yeah, exactly. Well, like there was a post I saw a couple of days ago where someone said that if you're white, you shouldn't be using any GIFs in reply that aren't your skin color. And I was like,
funny.
I made the Fat Minute video about it. And I was laughing but if you go through their comments, it gets to the point where it's like, well, if you want to hate me, here's my Cash App name. I'm like, so you're literally just hate tweeting for hate pay. That's pretty much what you're doing at this point.
Oh, absolutely. It's the grift is real.
They're better grifters than I am. I should take lessons. I should really take lessons. I need to make that money in subs, man. I should grift more.
Oh.
It's just stupid. But when that stops, I can't wait for the day we get a Star Wars book, and I'm not trying to insult or scare you guys where you're opening the book, and it's just a Jedi and a Sith pointing at each other, holding their lightsabers, going, racist, ist, phobe, ist, boom, and that's it. They're not using any force powers. They're not lightsaber battling. They're just pointing at them for 3 chapters, yelling different terminology. That's what I'm.
Yeah, and that's the one that'll be in the bin at the Dollar Tree
Nice next to
store.
Rose Tico toys.
Oh, one last topic I want to get to is so Stig, you are a big fan of retro gaming.
Oh yeah, I like well, for the most part, old PC games and Commodore 64 games.
Tell them how big your collection is on GOG.
Oh, it's over 300 games.
Yeah, I heard that. I lost my crap.
Wait, GOG? Oh, yeah. Which one is that?
Good Old Games. GoodOldGames.com. It's
or
sorry, GOG.com. It's a store where they basically make old games work on new computers and they sell them for very little money. So
okay, so like a emulator. Okay.
No, not really. You just download the installation file from your GOG library and double click it, install it. That's it.
Yeah, I'm looking at here now.
If it wasn't for Stig, I would never have remembered the game I used to play when I was younger. That was on my dad's computer, Rex Nebula. And when he finally got the name for me, I was like, oh my God, that's it. Because I remember that game and always getting eaten by this fat cannibal woman that you'd see bounce out of the distance. I'm not joking. That's one of the scenes. I'm not joking.
I actually beat that game for the first time last year. They had it on sale on GOG a couple of weeks ago for, I think, $1.
Oh, no.
Wow. Yeah. I remember I was talking with Stig about Ultima 3.
Yeah.
I used to play the heck out of that game. Oh my gosh.
Ultima 4 you get for free on GOG just by making an account. Just add it to your account. The rest of the Ultima games tends to be on sale quite often, and they work like a charm, you know. They're dependent on manuals though, because there's a lot of stuff in manuals in the old games because they just couldn't fit it all on the discs, right? But I play games like that. I find them very relaxing because if you watch, it makes you think and it makes you plan ahead and remember things and take notes actually, because there's no journal in the game, right? Just stuff we take for granted now. But with new games, right, you have excellent graphics and it's very convenient to play and, you know, it's awesome. But with the old ones, you feel more like you're in the game because you're actually making an effort, making these notes and trying to remember stuff. And, you know, with some of them have really bad graphics. So you're kind of visualizing, you know, the forest you're in or whatever in the game, right? Yeah. So I find that to be... it's very relaxing and it relieves stress quite well. Plus, there's the nostalgia factor. You know, it takes you back to a time when life was simpler and easier because you were a kid.
Yeah, you could put out that block of time where it's just like all I'm going to do is just focus and play this game. I don't have to think about anything else.
Yeah, which is actually the focus is. A lot of the new games, right? If you play a new RPG or something, you don't really have to focus on anything. You can just swiftly click through conversations, and then you get like a quest marker somewhere, and you just follow the marker till you get to the other person, and then you click through it, and then head into a dungeon and kill a boss, right? And you can actually beat games by not knowing the story in some cases. Which is, well, I wouldn't say it's games are worse now. They're certainly not. They're probably better. But I think with all the convenient things that games have now, they've also lost something.
I would have to agree. It's like I remember back in the day, if you got a video game, and you got stuck on a level, you either had to keep at it, ask friends who've played the game, or go buy the magazine that had the cheat codes in it.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like you could go right on the Google and find how to get out of it, right then and there. You had to put in some work to figure out what was going on.
Yeah, and those old adventure games, King's Quest and
Yeah.
Yeah, I
stuff
remember
like that.
those.
I'm a huge fan of those. I've actually have almost all of them in the original boxed versions. In those games, if you didn't have the internet, you had no way of,
Progressing because you
progressing.
wouldn't figure out the
Mhm.
yeah.
But what that did, though, I think it added something that we don't see today. It's you had friends playing the same games usually because you'd copy the games, right? And there was only so many games to go around because you didn't have the internet. So you'd have a full-blown conversations during recess at school, checking if some of your friends had managed to figure out what the acorn was for, right?
Yeah.
And stuff like that. And it added a lot of it added a little sense of community, like a mini community, as a bunch of friends trying to beat the same problem, and I think that is something that's definitely gone when you can just look up a walkthrough online and
Yeah.
basically cheat.
Yeah, you don't get that. You don't really get that experience of working through a problem. I remember, oh God, this is dating myself. When I had my Commodore 64 computer, I got the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy game. And I forget which section that I got like stuck on because a couple friends of mine had bought the same game. I'm like, where you can't hear, you can't smell, and you can't taste. And I'm like, well, how the heck do you get out of this? Because I keep getting stuck in this one part. And one friend's like, yeah, but it doesn't say that you can't feel around.
Yeah.
I'm like, crap, I didn't even freaking think of that.
Yeah, stuff like that was fun, and I always thought it added to the whole experience because when you're stuck and actually get through something yourself without help, and then eventually you will have beaten the game, right? You got a bigger sense of achievement from that, I think, than just cheating through a game,
It's the problem solving aspect because it makes your mind work and you have to think of outside of what your normal mental box is. And sometimes when you finally got it, it's like solving that math problem for the first time. And it just gives that sense of accomplishment. And a lot of games in this day and age don't really do that.
Yeah. And in those games, you also got more of a story. You got the next chapter of a story when you got through. And I was like, that was a driving force. And even with the King's Quest stuff, right? If you got to an area you never seen, you got that cool pixelated artwork, and oh, look, cool, a cabin, right? I wonder what's in it. I think a lot of young people don't know what they missed out on with that stuff. That being said, I'm fully aware that it hasn't aged well for today's audience, but it's good that some companies still make games like that. They're all point and click now, though. You don't have to type or anything, but it's the same genre, and it's more like a niche genre now, but it still has life in it.
It does. Like there's one game where I tried playing it last year. I was playing it with my nephew. It was a game called Cuphead. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, the one that journalists couldn't beat the tutorial and was all pissed off.
Exactly. And they were pissed because they couldn't beat it. And I said, wait a minute, you mean to tell me this is how games used to be? You died a lot.
Yeah.
In the beginning, because you had to figure out how to beat it. And that was always a joke, like, man, I just got started and I got killed. It's like, okay, well, you learn to look around the next time. And it was so difficult. I'm like, why are these journos complaining? This is how games used to be. It was not easy to beat at all. And you just had to keep plugging at it to get further. I loved playing that game, even though, I died a lot, but it was fun.
Yeah, it makes you think what those journals were playing when they were kids, though. I mean,
yeah, I don't know, some boring game or whatever.
It's weird. I've seen people. This I've seen quite often when some RPG has been announced.
Mm-hmm.
People are asking for a button that lets you beat combat. Like you press
I'm
it.
Sorry?
And combat. Yeah, you press it and combat's over because they don't like to do combat. And I'm like, then why the hell are you buying a role-playing game?
Exactly.
How are you going to level up? What? No, that's lazy.
Yeah, well, they do have story modes for RPGs now, which means your character's immortal.
That's weird.
Yeah, it's like below very easy, which is a game journal difficulty, really.
Yeah.
I think so. Because I remember when my nephew had gotten one game, I forget what the heck it was. I forget which game it was. And he was getting frustrated and he kept getting killed at the outset. He's like, I wish I could skip this. I'm like, no, you need to learn how to do this. It's not supposed to be easy.
I saw a review once for one of the Grand Theft Auto games.
Yeah.
And I think it was 3 or San Andreas or whatever it was back in those days. There was an Amazon review, and the guy gave it a 1 out of 5 stars because the game didn't tell him how to enter a car. I'm like, walk up to the car.
I can't
and
go
press.
on with this conversation anymore.
I'm out. God, my brain hurts.
Yeah. I mean, there's literally a little manual in the cover, in the DVD cover for the game.
Yeah.
Where it says what the buttons do.
Wow.
That's a good closing out right there. Someone has stupidity. Yeah.
I just killed all of it.
You didn't kill anything. What happened is it's the laziness of being handed an easy mode is what killed it. That's why you don't see journalists playing Dark Souls, because they'll never understand what it's like to die over and over again. Because it's supposed to challenge. I love Dark Souls. Demon Souls, when I first played that, it pissed me off to no end. Even Outriders that I just completed the campaign, I died a lot. It got harder every world tier, but I didn't down the difficulty because I needed to get through it.
I just don't understand why they just don't understand the fun of, getting killed as soon as you try to play it. It's like it's one of those things where it's like, gee, how many times did you die playing this time? Because that taught you how to learn and how to go through the game. But these journals, these game journals are not real gamers. That's
you know what journalist mode should give you? As soon as you press start and activate journalist mode, it just shows you the ending credits, but nothing of the game. That's what it should do.
Oh God, freaking lazy.
With those King's Quest games though, dying was half the fun.
Yeah,
because you got a bunch of condescending jokes at your expense, and maybe you shouldn't step on the cat while walking down the stairs.
Yeah, there was that one tomato in the swamp that would not shut up. That's what I remember the most, because I'd have to go past him, knock him into the swamp, and then I'd be stuck at this cliff face and trying to figure out what words I'm supposed to use to make the stone steps come out of the cliff so I can actually walk up.
Yeah, that was in the manual.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't have the manual. That's the problem. I got the game from a friend, but no manual.
I remember in Ultima 3, I guess it was Ultima 3, where my character was starving, and they kept reminding you, hey, your character's starving. You need to get something to eat. You might want to steal something to eat. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, the Ultima 3, I've beaten that one. That one is insanely brutal.
Yes.
At the end, the final the final castle, the floor attacks you.
Oh
The damn floor. And then there's invisible demons. You don't even know where to attack. You have to guess.
No.
It's ridiculous.
It's cool stuff like that. It's like the game is automatically programmed against you to kill you.
Mm-hmm.
And you go in there knowing that, then you'll be okay. But, you know.
Yeah.
But
and if people think Dark Souls is difficult, they should try playing Ghosts and Goblins. Remember that? Or Ghouls and Ghosts, it was called that too. Side-scrolling.
I think I remember that.
Evil game, very evil. I actually broke my the cassette player on my C64, the lid on it. When
I know what you're talking about. I know exactly what you're talking about.
I got so pissed because I was near the end, and all of a sudden a zombie pops out beneath you, and you have no way of knowing. It just pops up and just kills you, right? Which happens a lot in that game. But I got so pissed, I grabbed the cassette player and headbutted it till my forehead bled.
Before we actually do end out, I have to share this because I can't believe I missed this 4 hours ago.
What is it?
Let me know when you're ready.
Oh, yes, I do. You know what? I have to check this out. You play it. I'm gonna have to.
I'm not gonna play it. I'm not gonna play it. What I'll do is I'll do this, and I'll fast forward it like that.
I can't wait to see this Afterlife.
Oh,
I'm hoping it doesn't go woke. He's in a Walmart. He's in a Walmart. Look.
Those are Stay Puft Marshmallows.
Can I just say how funny I think it is that
wait a minute.
He's in a Walmart with the Stay Puft Marshmallows?
Well, shit. This is bad because this is Groot and Baby Yoda all over again.
Oh,
it might be.
Is it I'm sorry. That's going to be Walmart jokes for days.
It's not even that. You know what's going to come out. We're going to get product placement of Stay Puft Marshmallows, but they're going to be shaped like these.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. They're going to look like the Pillsbury Doughboy, which that idea I don't like because it's I don't know.
It started with Baby Groot, and then it was Baby Yoda, and now it's this.
And now it's going to be the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. I mean, I'd be okay with selling Stay Puft Marshmallows. I could go for that.
Oh, I'd eat them. That would be awesome.
To buy the Stay Puft brand, I could do that because they had them in the first movie where Dana puts it on the counter.
Yeah.
This stuff. Oh man. Yeah, I need Afterlife to wipe out the memory of Ghostbusters 2016.
Oh, it was even worse. I went on Amazon today, and it has the deals of the day, right? So it goes the best comedies ever, and they had the picture of 2016. I'm like, that's bullcrap. I'm not clicking on that at all. Best comedies, my butt.
To hell with these people.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Stig, thank you so much for hanging out with this dude. I appreciate it. I've been meaning to interview you for quite some time.
Yeah, had a lot of fun hanging out with both of you, and we didn't even talk about Florida this time.
Yeah.
I know.
And our private chat is 90% clean, which is weird.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, I tend to do that just to mess with Steven.
Oh, you
because if I put something offensive or a pun or something in the private chat, I can hear him start wheezing.
I gotta get my Grievous on, right? So thank you.
Yeah.
Well, dude, I'm looking forward to having you back on the Florida chat, Florida stream, whenever you get a chance. It's always a pleasure having you on.
It's it depends on my sleep schedule, really.
Yeah, that's why when you pop in the chat, I'm like, "You're awake? You're awake? You come on." It's like, I'm kind of tired. Then other times it's like, "Yeah, I'm awake. Come on." It's like, "Yeah, come on in." Come on in. I know you're kind of you're not really doing YouTube as much as you used to. So
yeah, I'm kind of semi-retired.
Yeah.
But I do Laura's comic thing on Thursdays and Sporkings, the Game of Thrones stuff. I think that's fun. I basically I got burned out on talking about pop culture articles. Brie Larson said something stupid again, right? So let's talk about it for 6 hours.
Yeah, I hear
You know?
It's become a repetitive negativity rather than focusing on having fun and enjoying the passion of why you started a YouTube channel to get to meet people. And it seems like it's been dulled over by this constant.
Yeah,
it's turning to Charlie Brown teachers. I have to agree to that.
I think it at a certain point, a lot of channels just flipped away from fandom over to being pop culture news channels.
Mm.
Good
point.
And it's up to them what they want to do. But still, all of them did, and it wasn't that fun to be on so much anymore. I think it was in 2019 I realized I had been on 6 streams. I think it was in 2 days or something. All of them were 2 hours or more, and all of them talked about the same Brie Larson article. And I did the math, and I was like, shit, I was on YouTube for a combined 12 and a half hours talking about the same damn article. And I was like, I could have watched the whole extended Lord of the Rings.
Oh
instead.
man,
that's the kind of thing I feel with when it comes to the Gina Carano stuff. I think it's been overplayed to the point where it's losing the power of it, and people are like, no, it hasn't. She's the spearhead. I'm like, guess what? Spearheads get dull, and this is what's happening. You got to find other people, other topics to focus on. You don't have to make everything about what the negative is being reported, because that's drowning the good stuff that's not being seen, and a lot of people are forgetting that.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure most of them hadn't even watched a Gina Carano movie before she was in
Deadpool,
in Mandalorian.
It's like it's like I tell people, it's like, don't get me wrong. It's like, yeah, Gina Carano stuck her neck out. Things have happened to her. I'm glad she stands for what she does, and especially with the fans. But it's like, that's not everything. Pay attention to what's going on behind the scenes with that, because that's where the bigger story is. Gina's the canary in the coal mine, so to speak. So it's like, don't get so hung up on just it's Gina Carano. It's like, look at what's happening behind the scenes with that.
Yeah, and I think Gina Carano should be allowed to say exactly what she wants to say, on her personal Twitter. So I thought, what happened to her was beyond wrong, right? But at the same time, you see people upset, Gina Carano got fired for her opinions and stuff. And then in the next video, they're saying actors shouldn't talk politics. Well, if people aren't allowed to talk politics when you don't like what they have to say, then the door has to swing both ways too. It can't just be allowed to talk about politics when it's politics you agree with.
Yeah.
Right. Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I tell people, it's like, I don't care about what your politics are. It's like, that doesn't really bother me. I'm not concerned about that. But it's just,
Yeah, you and I grew up when in a time where having different political opinions didn't mean that we were enemies. It was okay.
Yeah, it was like, it was perfect. It was perfectly okay. It came up with some spectacular arguments, and that's pretty much how it's been up until recently. And even if you tell someone, like I told someone, I said, well, one of my best friends, it's like, she's not conservative, she's liberal. Oh, well, I couldn't be friends with a liberal. I'm like, well, maybe that's your problem.
Yeah, because that's not very liberal to begin with.
No, not at all.
It's, I'm more of a centrist. Center right, center left, depends on the topic. I'm more center right now, though. But for the most part, I'm more pissed at the media.
Oh
because
God,
the media is so dishonest.
They are. They're even pushing out people who, who were centrist. It's like even they're, demonized.
Yeah.
Even if, even if they're left leaning, they're just, they're being demonized. So it's something else. But dude, I'm glad you're out there.
Showing us your
and
thingy.
and folks can still find you on Twitter, correct?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter.
Okay.
I'm terrible though at following back because I don't check my followers or anything that often.
Neither do
Same
I.
same with my YouTube channel. I only check now and again when people say, "Hey, you're close to another 50, so you have to do a top 5."
I
You know,
love those top 5 videos.
but
Gosh, you're hysterical.
yeah, basically what I do with those is I find 5 kind of messed up pictures and I scroll through them while filming it with my cell phone. And I just say whatever pops into my head. And then I call it content.
They are kind of messed up, but we look forward to them anyway. I have no idea, but we just do. We just do. Well, folks, that's going to end it for this episode of the After School Special. So thankful to Stig Kenobi for joining us. So we have his links in the description box where you can follow him on Twitter and check out his YouTube channel. And again, he will be with on a Laura show on Thursdays at I believe 12 p.m. Eastern for me because I keep missing it. So Thursdays at 12 p.m. Eastern, he's on a Laura's Coffee Chat show. And Sporking's podcast is, did you say Mondays?
Yeah, Mondays.
Okay.
Also, if someone out there follows me on Twitter or something, expect it to take at least 6 months for me to follow back, and don't take it personal. It's just that I simply, it slips my mind to check, and I have notifications turned off too because I hate notifications.
Oh, I do too. They're turned off because I can't freaking deal with it. I just can't. So, I just check. And people who know me have the other ways of getting a hold of me, finding out what's going on. Okay, well, thanks so much, everyone, for joining us. Thanks so much for watching this video, and we will catch you on the next episode. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank